a lengthy Sicha because in honor of the 30 years since Chavzayin Adar, this Sicha speaks much about the idea of the power of speech and the lack thereof, which the Rebbe was speaking in Das Tachten, was speaking about the Frierdiker Rebbe, but this was a little bit over a month that Rebbe said it before the identical, almost not the identical, but in a similar vein, happened to the Rebbe and Chavzayin Oder, where we could not hear the Rebbe speak anymore since then. Now, the Sikha is a very lengthy Sikha. It speaks a lot about different topics about Geulas Mitzrayim, Parshas Boy, when the Sikha was said, and the connection with the very high levels of Paroh in the spiritual realms. And it's going to take at least, we're not going to talk about the power of speech until we get to Ois Vav. I'm not sure if we're going to get there today. Okay, let us begin. Sivui Hashem LeMoshe boil Paroh, the command of Hashem to Moshe, come to Paroh, which we'll soon explain as we'll bring down why it says come to Paroh instead of go to Paroh. Uhascholas, it is the beginning, Vishma Shel Parsha, and also the name of the Parsha, Shemeduber Ba'oides Geulas Bnei Yisrael B'Poel B'Yitzias Mitzrayim. That's spoken about it, about the actual redemption of the Eden from Yitzias Mitzrayim. In the previous Parshas, it speaks about Hashem promising the redemption and what he's going to do to bring about the redemption and so on. But the actual redemption takes place at the end of Parshas Boy. And the title of it is Boil Pari. What do we see? The actual redemption it says, it was in this very day, Yatzel Kol Tzivus Hashem Eretz Mitzrayim, that all the hosts of Hashem, the entire army of Hashem, left the land of Mitzrayim. Hoitzi Hashem is Bnei Yisrael Meretz Mitzrayim Al Tzivoisim, that Hashem took out the Yidden from the land of Mitzrayim upon their hosts. Mekibin Shekol Parshas Yitzias Mitzrayim Nikras Al Shem Boil Paroi, since the entire Parsha dealing with going out of Mitzrayim is called by the name Come to Paroi. As it's known, Sheshem HaParsha Moira Al Toichen Kol HaParsha. The name of the Parsha indicates the content of the entire Parsha. Moving, it's understood, Sheboil Paroi Kosher V'Negea LeToichen Gulos Mitzrayim V'Hemshech HaParsha, that the title of the Parsha, Come to Paroi, is connected and matters for the content of the redemption of Mitzrayim that continues in the Parsha. So therefore, the Rebbe is going to want to reconcile it. We're going to find, the Rebbe is going to find difficulties. How can we say that it's connected? And the Rebbe is going to explain. This means to say, Nois of Lakach, Kol Pratish Lichus Ishol Moishol Pari, Hemachonol Gos Mitzrayim, in addition to the fact that all the specifics of the mission of Moshe to Pari are a preparation for the goal of Mitzrayim, obviously. That's what Moshe Rabbeinu was sent to Pari, and that's why Moshe Rabbeinu was told, Voyel Pari, come to Pari. The reason why he was told that was for the obvious reason to get the Yidden out of Mitzrayim. The Tvafu Bezeb and Negel LeBoyel Pari. And it's added to this the statement, come to Pari. B'yoisoi hascholas v'shem parshas hageulah. Since it is the beginning and the name of the parsha that actually deals with the redemption, in addition to that, hascholas hanemeres loik hagdamas linyan noisa ela keinyam v'tzivui b'fnei atzmai shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu LaMoshe. It's the beginning of what's said, not as an introduction to something additional, but actually as a separate command of Hashem to Moshe. Vayomer Hashem al Moshe boil Pari. Hashem told Moshe, come to Pari. V'suloi. It doesn't say anything further. It doesn't say after the pasuk that Hashem told Moshe, come to Pari. It doesn't go on to explain what exactly he's coming for. It only gives that statement, even though we do have in other parshas where it says, Boy el Paroi, that Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu that, but it's an immediate connection with something else that Moshe was going to do. Meaning, Shaboy el Paroh, the idea of your coming to Pari, it's an introduction to the redemption itself, and it's an actual beginning, which begins in this parsha. It starts off with this command of Hashem to Moshe, come to Pari. Or even more so, you do according to what is known. That the going out of Mitzrayim is the beginning and the opening of all the redemptions, meaning it is starting off all the redemptions that Eden will go through throughout history, including also the future redemption with Mashiach. Allah concerning the redemption with Mashiach, it says, like your days going out of the land of Mitzrayim, I will show you wonders, meaning just like I showed you wonders when you went out of Mitzrayim, so too I will show you wonders when I will bring you out of Golus finally with Mashiach, which means that there's a direct line of a connection between the Geula from Mitzrayim with the final Geula, the Geula with Mashiach. Yes, so therefore we could say, this statement that Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu come to Paroh, which we just now said is the beginning of the redemption from Mitzrayim. It's also an introduction to the future redemption, not just as an introduction to what it says later on the parsha, at the end of the parsha, that the Eden left Mitzrayim, but it's also, since the leaving of Mitzrayim is the beginning of all redemptions, so therefore Bayal Paroh is an introduction to the final redemption as well. We need to understand what's the connection of what it says. Come to Paroh, to the redemption. The Lachura seemingly toichnam hafa. It's actually the content of the two. Boyel Paroh and Geula are actually just the opposite. How come? Boyel Paroh moira sheParoh nimtza betokta. The statement come to Paroh indicates that Paroh finds himself in his full strength and might. And Moshe needs to come to him by and he needs to come on to him. Add to such a degree as Paroh in his full might, that Paroh tells him afterwards, in the continuation of the parsha, after the plague of darkness, leave me. Guard yourself. Do not again come to see my face. When you will see my face, you will die. Meaning that Paroh was really exerting his full force and strength, that he was even threatening Moshe that he shouldn't appear before him again. This is the polar opposite of what we're talking about over here about the Geula. Benigud Gomer Megillus Mitzrayim, a complete opposite from the redemption of Mitzrayim. Shinyana Bittul Toike Paroh. So it's about nullifying the power of Paroh to defeat him. By days through that to become free, to go and to leave from Paroh, the king of Mitzrayim. So seemingly, how can we say that Boyel Paroh includes in it and is a guide, an introduction to leaving Mitzrayim, when Boyel Paroh indicates the full force of Paroh, the polar opposite of the going out of Mitzrayim? This will be understood by first prefacing a general question concerning what Moshe Rabbeinu was told, come to Paroh. Up on the next page. Every matter in Torah is everlasting and forever. Therefore, it's an everlasting directive and lesson for all generations. According to this, what is the everlasting lesson and directive from what Hashem told Moshe, come to Paroh? Nowadays, it's already nullified, and we already defeated Paroh, the king of Mitzrayim, with the redemption of Mitzrayim, with the redemption from Mitzrayim. So what relevance and what lesson can we learn from Boyel Paroh? The Rebbe goes on And ultimately, when Mashiach comes, for sure, what lesson will it be? How much more so after the true and complete redemption? When I will remove the spirit of impurity from the land, and therefore there will not be remaining any type of mark or impression of pari whatsoever. And similar to this, even at the time of the end times of Golus. In other words, even prior to Mashiach's coming, at the cusp of Mashiach's coming, when it was already concluded, all the refinements of the sparks of Klippas Pari and similar Klippas, like was spoken about many times, that since the Rebbe spoke about so many times that we already finished the Avodas HaBirurim, so therefore, once we're done with Avodas HaBirurim, what lesson is there to be derived? What type of everlasting teaching is there from the statement, Boyal Pari, come to Pari? We could say the explanation, this is, you do according to what's known. Every matter in the world, even matters that are the opposite of good and holiness, they have a root above in the spiritual realms and holiness. In truth, this is their source in Kedusha. That is what they truly are. The Rebbe says in footnote 12 that in Torah, the core of Torah is really speaking about the matters the way they are in their root and holiness. Torah comes from Hashem's divine wisdom. So the way they are really in Torah, they are really discussing the matters the way they are in their spiritual, holy state. And then, only after much of the chain descent of one level after another level after another level, and many, many curtains and coverings and concealments and hiding away of the divine light. Came down here below, something the opposite of good, something the opposite of holiness, even though it initially began in a holy place. The Rebbe often quotes what it says, that there are those that think that the Torah speaks down here below, but hints at spiritual things above, and it says just the opposite. The Torah speaks above, but it hints to things down here below. So too concerning Paroh, who was the Hitler of his times. He still in all has a very high spiritual source. Isa Bezoyers brought down the Zoyar al Aposik. And the Aposik it says, Va'koil nishma beis Paroh. In Parshas Vayigash, when Yosef and his brothers finally met as brothers, and Yosef revealed himself to his brothers, and there was a big tumult and so on. And it says the sound was heard in the house of Paroh. And it says over there, Hakoil, it says it without a vav. We're going to speak about it in a moment. So here's what the Zohar says. The Zohar speaks in Aramaic. Beis Paroh dahi simonach la'ela. The house of Paroh, that is your sign, and that is signifying to levels above. It is Besa, it is a home, it is an area, it's a place. The Ispariu, he's making the word Paroi related to the word Ispariu. Ispariu means when something is opened and becomes completely out of any type of limitation. It's completely wild or running free or flying free. That's the idea of Ispariu. Is gallion minay, and it becomes revealed from it. Kol nehoidin v'kol b'tzinin, all lights and all candles. Kol madahava sasim mitamon, everything that was concealed from us is gale, becomes revealed. Will begin kach, and because of this, kuchabrichu api kol nehoidin v'kol b'tzinin. Hashem takes out, brings out, in other words, reveals all the lights and all the candles. Begin for the sake la'anhara lahu koil, the ikrik koil beloivav, to illuminate that level of the voice that is called koil without a vav, meaning that it brings down a very high level of revelation that should come downward. That's what the Zohar says about the significance of the house of Pari. So here we have an indication that Pari, despite of it being down here a very, very low level, in the spiritual realms, Pari is very high. Pari, and from Pari, the way its root is in the state in holiness, in the Priya Vigila is Baruch, the idea of opening and revealing his godliness. Mishtalshal Pari Lamata comes a chain descent of Pari down here below. The Chol HaToikif below Mazen, its full force in the opposite side, meaning the full force of Pari of cliff. Alpiza Yuvana Indian the Baal Pari B'Sharsha B'Kedusha Oizgimel, the Rebbe says, according to this understood idea of what Moshe Rabbeinu was told, come to Pari the way it is in its root above in holiness. Before we brought a Zohar and parts of Yigash when it told about the story of Yosef and his brothers. Now he goes to a Zohar in our parsha. The Zohar parsha Seinum, in the Zohar of our parsha, Mevaira Inyan de Boil Pari, Kefishu Bepari Lamata. He explains the matter of come to Pari, the way it's in Pari down here below. Maksiv Boil Pari. It's what does it say? It says come to Pari. The famous question is, it should have said go to Pari. My boy, why does it say come? Hashem brought Moshe Rabbeinu in or up. Idrin Basar Idrin, chambers or rooms within chambers and rooms. In other words, to the deepest, most concealed levels. Legabe Tanina Chada Ilah Takifa, in before the great one supernal serpent. Tanina is Tanin. In Tanakh, Para is likened to a serpent that is sitting in its yair, in its water, and so on. So there's the idea of this great serpent, the way it is in the spiritual realms, the Kama Dargin Mishtal Shlemene, that many levels come down via chain descent from this very high level that's the room concealed before other rooms and so on. Man the Hagadol. And what is it that is the secret of the great serpent? That is this high level is the secret of what it's called in Tanakh. It's referred to there's the great serpent. So there's this great serpent in the spiritual realms. And Moshe Dachomene, and Moshe was scared of this great spiritual level of the serpent. Loikariv ella legabe inun ye'orin ve'inun dargidolei. He could only approach its ye'or, the place of its water that's surrounding it, and its levels. In other words, it could only approach not the serpent itself, but the levels surrounding it. But concerning this great spiritual serpent, Dachil, he was scared, but like Karev, and he did not become close. Begin the Chamele, because he saw Mishtarish Bishroshin Iloin, that it's rooted in very high roots and very high level. Even the Chama Kuchabrichu, the Dachil Moshe, Vishlichem Menen Achranin La'ela. Since Hashem saw that Moshe Rabbeinu was fearful, and other representatives above would not be able to become close, would not be able to approach this great serpent that he spoke about before. Amar Kuchabrichus, Hashem said, Hineni Alecha Parim El Mitzrayim Atanin Agodla Arevit V'Sechia Oirav. This is actually a pasuk in Yecheskel. I told you before that it makes reference to this, and it says, "Behold, I'm upon you, Pari, the king of Mitzrayim, the great serpent that crouches and lives within his waterways." So, in other words, Hashem was saying, "I am placing you higher than it. And Hashem himself had to fight a battle with that great serpent, and no one else. Madat Amrit, like it says over there, Ani Hashem, I am Hashem, only Hashem himself could do it. Okay, now that we learned the Zohar, the Rebbe is going to analyze it and explain. What this means to say. The Etzem Klippas Parit. Because of the great power of the very essence of the clip of Parit, which in Tanakh is referred to as the great serpent, in his house, in the royal palace, that its root is in the supernal roots above. Moshe was scared to enter there. Therefore, Hashem did not tell them at the beginning of Parshas Boy, go to Pari, which would seem to indicate that Moshe Rabbeinu would be going alone. Ella, rather, Hashem told him, Boy el Pari, come to Pari, indicating that he will come along with Hashem. And he will enter the Pare, meaning HaKadosh Baruch Hu moilich oisai yachad itoy. Hashem is leading Moshe Rabbeinu along with him himself, along with Hashem. Elapnimius ha'etzem, the klippus Pare, to the innermost aspect, to the essence of Pare, Idrin basar Idrin, which the Rebbe brings a translation, Chadorim lefnim mechadorim, chambers within chambers, to be able to entirely conquer him, like the Zohar says, to be able to challenge him in battle. So now, the Rebbe asked like this, according to this, we need to understand, what does it mean to come to Pari? The Kedusha, in the level of Kedusha, this Pariu, this Galim, and they call that it becomes revealed, and opened up and loosened up all the lights. When we're talking about the Pari of holiness, revelation of godliness, it's not possible to say that Moshe Rabbeinu was scared. That Moshe Rabbeinu will be scared to enter over there alone. That he will need HaKadosh Baruch Hu that Hashem should command him, Boy Pari, come to Pari, he'll bring him in, Hashem took him in. So what's going on over here? Why would Moshe Rabbeinu be scared to relate to this level of Pari and Kedusha? He should feel very comfortable. We could say the explanation of this is Pari, the Kedusha, who Gilu Yachin Naila Delakus. Pari of Kedusha is the highest revelation of godliness. Whether we're talking about the very essence of the level of the revelation, Aleph, that means Gilui Kol Ha'oros, it's the revelation of all divine lights and energies, including the highest, most lights and the highest, most levels in godliness. That's why the Zohar says, Kol Nahirin v'Kol B'tzinin, all lights and all candles, Ad L'Kol Madahavasasim, until everything that was concealed. So the levels are very high. And then V'hein Ba'ofen Agilu, and also in the manner of the revelation, which is based Ba'ofen the Isperiu Meloshin Parua B'li Seder. The word Parua, which the Isperiu is referring to, the word Par is referring to, is that it's completely flying apart. There's no order. Meaning it's beyond order, it's beyond Medida Vagbala, measure and boundary. The Yisaydim is even more so. The opening up, the loosening up, and the revelation from it, all the lights, but Atzmus comes specifically from his very essence. Like the Zohar says, base pari chulu besa this periu is gallion minekol nohedin chulu. It's the house that from it becomes loosened and opened and revealed from it all the lights. Kuchabrichu apikol nohedin chulu. The Eibishter brings out all the lights. But bias dira nimta amelech begilui bechol atzmus. When you're talking about the king's home, that's where the king is found with his entire essence. So over here, we're dealing not just with very high lights, but we're holding with Hashem's very essence. It's beyond any revelation. Light on its own, not essence, is defined by and limited by its definition and form, that it's revelation. Light is about revelation. That's what light is. That's already a definition. That's already a limitation. A whole darga, and any type of level, and anything that's drawn down within light, comes down in a specific order appropriate to its particular and specific form and revelation. So we're talking about revelation, when we're talking about light, by its very nature, it's in such a way of being revealed in an orderly fashion.
Sounds like you're talking about Olam HaTohu and Olam HaTikkun, no?
Well, patience. I believe later on he's going to talk about that. Moving is that it's understood from this. So that should be able to be the revelation of all the lights, and everything that was concealed, the opposite of revelation, even more so in a way of being completely opened up beyond any type of order and levels. This has to come from Hashem's very essence. Because Hashem's essence is the source of all the lights. Like the expression of the Zohar in our Parsha, the Paroh, the very essence of Paroh, the Kama Dargim Mishkal Shalom, that many levels come down from it. Along with the fact that it is the source, Hashem's essence is the source of everything. Makar kazeh shalamayla legamri mikol geder makar v'geder ma'ir v'or. It's beyond being called a source. It's beyond being defined by the fact that it's a source. It's beyond the definition not just of light, but also the luminary, which is the source of the light. Therefore, what comes out of it is all the lights and everything was concealed in a way that it becomes now loosened and revealed without any type of limitation. In other words, Hashem's essence is not even defined by the fact that it brings down any type of revelation. So this was the ultimate possible level, and this was what Moshe Rabbeinu was scared of. Cornelius understood why Moshe was fearful of it and did not approach it. He saw the revelation of Paroh of holiness, that it's rooted in the supernal roots. Therefore, he was concerned about entering the house of Paroh. But in the Paroh, the Kedusha over there is revelation of the essence of Paroh of holiness. Because a limited, bounded creation, neshama beguf, a soul the way it's vested in the body, is unable to receive the wondrous revelations of his essence. The esperiu is gallium and ekol nahoidin, that becomes loosened and revealed from it all the lights. How is it in the capability of a limited creation to receive the revelation of all the lights? And even more so, a revelation that's beyond any type of measure and boundary, that it becomes revealed, something that comes from his very essence. The level of the lights and the level of the levels, Hagiluim, the Seder Ishtalshlos, the levels of revelations of Seder Ishtalshlos, those are something that is possible for him to receive. It's possible for a creation to receive that. That's not beyond the level of a creation. Therefore, Moshe was not fearful to approach Paroh. The way he's found in his house, how much more so outside of his house. But the way Paroh is, from the word that it's opened up and loosened up all the lights, Nimsa, Beisai, the Cholatoikiv, how he's found in his house in his entire power and strength. Hagiluyim, the Atzmus is Baruch, the revelations of his essence. Mikach Moshe Chashash. From this, Moshe was concerned. In Neshama beguf mitzad Atzma, because a Neshama beguf on its own, lo yecholu lekabel zayis, is incapable of being able to receive this at all. Yeah, Shlomo, we could say, Shazam Merumas Gam Behemshcha Parsha. This is also hinted in the continuation of the Parsha. Paroh Yomer LaMoshe, when Paroh told Moshe, Leich me alai, leave me. Yishamar lachav. Careful. Al toisav liris panai, do not add to see my face. Ki b'yomer reis kapanai Thomas, but when you'll see my face, you will die. Hiskim l'kach Moshe. Moshe agreed with this threat of Paroh. But Amrei, by saying, Kein dibarta, you spoke correctly. Lo oisiv oidrois panach, I will not see your face anymore. Them moving for this understood. That the words of Paroh, there is room for it in Torah and in holiness. That's why Moshe Rabbeinu said it. But the way it's in the holiness, this is total goodness. The idea behind this is the Paroh the Kedusha. Since the revelation of Paroh the Kedusha is beyond any type of measure of boundaries, that all the lights are opened up and loosened. Therefore, the day that you will see my face, you will die. Meaning, when you look at the level of Moshe on his own, it's not in the capability of a creation to receive the revelation of seeing the face of Paroh. And to remain a soul in the body. That's why it says that you will see that I will die. And that Paroh told them that if you see me again, you will die. Liris apnimius panecha, to see the innermost level. That's the idea of the panecha, your face, the pnimius, this that all the lights become opened up and loosened. Revelation that's beyond all measure and boundary. Hagilu the reis panecha, the revelation of seeing your face, who dafke kefishan neshama ilam it's only the way it is higher in all the measures and boundaries of the physical body and the limited body. That's why he said, you'll die if you see me again. Therefore, that had to be a specific command and a specific empowerment from Hashem to Moshe. Vayomer Hashem al Moshe, boyel Paroh. And Hashem told Moshe, come to Paroh. Hashem took him up the chambers from within chambers. Atzmus is Baruch Shalom Mailim call gather the bleak will. Hashem's very essence is beyond any type of definition of beyond boundary and boundary. Mevia as Moshe LaParoh, brings Moshe to Paroh. How could that be? Because since Hashem is beyond boundaries and not boundaries, so then he could assure Shagam be Yoitzi Neshama Beguf Mugbal, even while Moshe is in the Neshama in a limited body, he's capable to receive the revelation that all the lights will become revealed from Hashem's very essence. Because Hashem's very essence, that's beyond limitation. The explanation this is Paroh Meloshin is that when we say that Paroh is that loosened and revealed from it all the lights. Nitan lefarish b'shnei efanim, you can explain it in two ways. Aleph, hagilui dechol ha'oiris dechol nahoirin u'ba'oifen disperiu l'mayl meseder ha'drag. A revelation of all the lights in a way that it becomes loosened, meaning, like we said before, it's wild, it's beyond any order and level. It comes from Hashem's very essence that's beyond the entire paradigm and definition and category of light. It does not relate at all to light the way light is defined and the way the form that light takes. Because from the perspective and the level of light, even by the fact that Chassidus explains at length about being similar to the luminary, it's not in a way that it's loose and without an order, but over here, the light came about from Hashem's essence that's completely beyond order. You had a joining of two opposites. That all the lights, meaning that you had lights the way they already have form and they have definition, they have limitation, and that itself becomes completely loosened. A revelation that's beyond measure and boundary and form. Meaning also the form, the measure and the boundary of all the lights. It's in such a manner it's beyond the measure and the boundary of being opened up and let completely loose. And then it's a joining of two opposites, because like we said before, light is limited, and here you're doing it in an unlimited fashion. So that's showing on a revelation of such a level that joins the limited and the unlimited. And this joining of the opposites, of all the light and the isperiu, and the fact that they're completely wild without order and limitations, can also begin what's only by the power of Hashem's essence, like we said earlier in chapter 3. You do it now. The light before it became revealed was part of the very essence of the luminary itself, just like sunlight speaks about is part of the sphere of the sun before it comes out of the sun. The way it's part of the sphere of the sun, it's not a level of light, rather it's something called the capability of Hashem's essence. The kadmin kadmus yisbarach, and it's preceding everything just like Hashem precedes everything. And it's first, less like Hashem is first. The noise yakol v'kol yachol. It is capable to do everything. It has the potential for everything. And from it, all the lights become loosened and go out of boundaries and limitations. Even when the light comes out revealed in the form of light, it's already connected somewhat in a form and a boundary. And on its own, the light, like we said, is not in a way that it's loose without boundary and order. Comes in it from Hashem's essence, the perfection of the revelation of all the lights. Is even more so. This measure and boundary of all the lights, Gufa itself, it's in such a way that it's loosened beyond measure and boundary. From this comes down below the power to join the opposites, that the unlimited aspect and the limited aspect in the light itself should join together. It causes two opposites to join together. Light and vessel are also two opposites, and the fact that they join together, it's only because of Hashem's essence that is beyond the two. Until also the joining of the soul and the body, which are also two opposites. That also a soul in a limited body is able to receive the infinite light, the unbounded light, the Pari, until the revelation of Pari is that all the lights become opened. Atzmus is Baruch from his very essence. Even more so. Then the soul and the body is able to enter there, boil Pari, come into Pari, either in Basar, either in chambers within chambers, with Mamish is able to come into the most highest level. Now the question is, why was this necessary? Why specifically now? Why was this necessary at all? He says, top of the next column, why did Hashem make this novel thing to come to Pari? That Moshe weighs a soul in the body. To receive this revelation that all the light becomes opened up and loose. Why was that necessary? Yuvin behegdim bir teichena in the Guls Mitzrayim Bechlal will be understood by first prefacing the explanation of the content of the idea of the redemption of Mitzrayim in general. Shall boil Pari agdama v'aschol as a canal. That coming to Pari was an introduction and a beginning for this, like we said before, that this was what it was supposed to bring about. It was supposed to bring this level of the Gul. The Guls Mitzrayim, the purpose and the intent of Guls Mitzrayim was Matan Torah, the giving of the Torah. Like Hashem told Moshe immediately at the beginning of his mission. When you'll take this nation out of Mitzrayim, you will serve God on this mountain. What is the uniqueness? What's the uftu? What's the idea of Matan Torah that was so novel that didn't take place beforehand? The sinas haTorah v'amitzvos l'matal b'nei Yisrael neshamas begufim, the giving of Torah mitzvahs down here below to Yidden, the way they are souls enclosed in bodies. Be able to fulfill the purpose and the intent of the creation of the entire world. That Hashem desired to have a home down here below. The Hester, the hell of the Hester, the Sham Beguf Tachtonim, in the measure and the limitation and the concealment and the covering of a soul and the body down here below. Yir Gilia Atzmus should be the revelation of Hashem's very essence. Like a person, metaphorically speaking, that finds himself that is completely revealed with his entire essence in his private home. So to Hashem wants to be at home, completely revealed down here. Just like a person wants to be that way in his own home, how much more so Hashem, the creator of the world, that leads the world, wants to be in this world. Like to be fulfilled in the utmost revelation, in the true and complete redemption. Similar to what will take place when Mashiach comes, took place also by the giving of the Torah. Like it says, on the times of Mashiach, that your master will not cover himself anymore in garments. That Hashem will be in his home revealed without any garments. Even with the most highest type of garments, the upper type of garment. Yadua, like it's known, before Matan Torah, there was the decree between the upper worlds and the lower worlds, that the ones above will not descend below, and those below will not ascend above. By the giving of the Torah, the decree was nullified, and we were empowered to draw down below the revelation of above, until the highest, most levels in godliness, until Hashem's very essence. To such degree that the physical body in the physical world becomes holy. Until a home for Hashem. Until the Yid and Hashem are entirely one. Nimtza begili b'chol is found in a revealed way in the entire world. It's them moving for this is understood. Shebegols Mitzrayim v'yitzias Mitzrayim, in the exile of Mitzrayim, in the going out of Mitzrayim. That they make up a preparation for the revelation of Hashem's essence down here below by the giving of the Torah. Geshes Hagdam a bit like Zayras emphasized the preface and introduction to nullifying of the decree. It's a transition from a state of a separation between the ones above and the ones below to a state of a unity between the above and below. And why was that transition taking place? in the times of Golos Mitzrayim and going out of Mitzrayim, as a preparation for the complete unity between the upper and lower worlds in Matan Torah itself. Shloimer, we could say, Sheshlav Ikri Bazet Nifal Ayidei Tzivi Hashem LaMoshe Boil Pari. The main stage in this was affected through Hashem's command to Moshe, come to Pari. Kidlakamon, as we will explain later on. So essentially, to sum up, the Rebbe said that Moshe Rabbeinu had to have a revelation of Hashem's very essence that is beyond the limitations and beyond being unlimited, and therefore it could be that even in a physical limited body, Moshe could approach the highest, most levels of Hashem's essence, and this acted as a precursor and introduction for what will take place by Matan Torah, and even more so by Mashiach's times, the joining of the upper realms and down here below. We'll stop over here.
That's so interesting because I was wondering if